The march of the machine ever moves forward as day 2 shows the death of many, including Parhelion and Tamio. We receive 2 stories. The first one takes place mostly in Kamigawa, starting from the perspective of Tamio, and then that evolves to Kaya, and then later Kaido. Through this, we see Tamio recanting the story of Urza and his original fight against his brother, as well as the spread of Phyrexian during that invasion, as she leads the assault on Kamigawa using her scroll magic to destroy Boseiju. While this is happening, one of her children, Tamio famously has a bunch of adopted children, is trying to reach her to kind of convince her to no longer be evil, and he's like this little sad rat boy, and it's... At the same time, Kaya and Kaido are like trying to just get to her to stop her, jumping over collapsed buildings, saving innocents that may be trapped in those buildings. And as they reach her, it feels like maybe they have a chance of convincing her otherwise, that we've been kind of shown that there's something in the back of Tamio's mind screaming that what she's doing is terrible. Sadly, they are unsuccessful, and as Tamio is about to finally strike down Kaido and her son, the Wanderer shows up, cleaving her in half. And in one of maybe the more heart-wrenching scenes, we get basically the scroll magic ghost form of Tamio arriving after her death, kind of saying goodbye to everyone. Now, do I think that that could be a creature moving forward and we could have a legendary Tamio scroll spirit creature? Yes, I think that would be really cool. But the mortal Tamio has passed away. This then jumps to Pia Nalaar, who is on Kaladesh, and her and Saheeli have been preparing for basically the last few weeks to knowing that a Phyrexian invasion would come. They present to the council, hey, these Phyrexian symbols are showing up everywhere and the sky is turning dark because this invasion is about to happen. They eventually believe her and help basically evacuate the city. And so when Phyrexian attacks, for the most part, the city is void of innocents. It's mostly just warriors fighting against them. They have manned the fleet. They've got everything ready to fight them with heavy losses. The consul flagship is destroyed, as Pia Nalaar, and for those who don't know, Pia Nalaar is Chandra's mom and a leader of revolutionaries. But Pia and Saheeli are racing in a car down streets as they're being attacked. Pia eventually jumps onto a skyship being piloted by an ex-revolutionary Baji, who his ship is super fast, but really just a scrap of bullets. He's a Han Solo character, and he gets stabbed through a chest by a harpoon quill from a Phyrexian bird creature. R.I.P. Baji. We leave this story with Pia wrestling to try and get control of this flying ship as the Phyrexians are rushing to take over the Aetherflux Reservoir. Hopefully they don't get it, because that's a lot of energy and power that we really don't want in the Phyrexians' hands. We see actually a lot of skyships get destroyed. The Parhelion is destroyed on Ravnica. We didn't get any story beats from Ravnica, but we did see this. In the next story, we cut to Kaldheim following Tyvar. He meets up with his brother as the World Tree has already started fighting off the World Breaker as it's invading. There's a whole speech about how Tyvar's brother speaks to all of the different races of Kaldheim who have classically been at war with each other, the giants, the gods, the elves, etc., that they might hate each other, but this is a time for them to unite and fight the Phyrexians. We also find out that Toski and Koma and likely Seraph, basically the 3 tree protector god creatures, have all been completed, and Tyvar's about to fight them. There's a cool scene where tidal waves invade, and Tyvar lifts the ground up using his powers to combine with materials to protect all the elves from the invading ocean that I believe the gods are using to kind of flood the space. And there's a lot of cool teleportation. They're jumping between different planes. Think Thor: The Dark World, the end of it. The Valkyries are carrying them off to fight the Phyrexians. This then cuts to Atraxa, who's on New Capenna and is kind of there to, instead of complete those people, totally eradicate them. Due to the failures of previous Phyrexian invasions on New Capenna, basically Elesh Norn has decided this is a plane that is not worth saving because they could hold the weapon to defeat us. And, we know that is vaguely based in Angels and Halo. And at the same time, Atraxa is dealing very heavily with kind of the dichotomy of what completion is and what Phyrexian is versus a concept of beauty that I believe is a background of when she was previously an angel. And so Atraxa is kind of being driven to madness by the effect of the angels on her, eventually arriving to a museum where she slowly eradicates all of the information about both New Capenna's history and the art of New Capenna, from classic art to modern art, to all the way down to destroying the old relics of the old Phyrexia that invaded. She then sees this vision, and this is that artwork from it. To me, I believe this is a kind of a conversation between old Phyrexia and new Phyrexia, and the eggs of those Phyrexians kind of separating themselves from each other. But the one key thing I think in this story is that the Phyrexians are not as unified as they appear to say they are. At least these strong generals of Elesh Norn, from Tamio to Atraxa, characters that are, her top tier lieutenants, are starting to show personality and rebellious attitudes, or at least individualism that goes against what Phyrexia is meant to be. But Atraxa just destroys a bunch of angel statues. That's causing her to go slightly, the halo within them is causing her to go slightly mad as they work to destroy all of New Capenna from the ground up. There's also conversation with Saheeli and Pia going back about like the whereabouts of Chandra, and Saheeli doesn't want to tell her what Chandra is doing because I think everyone on the Gatewatch thinks that Chandra is going to her death to try and just blow up Phyrexia from the ground up using, fire magic and working with Ren and Six, who I believe is going to try and take over the World Tree, which we have seen artwork of Chandra confronting Nissa or being horrified from meeting Nissa on New Phyrexia. So we do know that Chandra goes there. The big question on everyone's mind is, does she have to fight Nissa? Well, they probably have to fight, but does she heal Nissa, or is she able to get to Nissa, or does she have to blow her up? Which would be really heartbreaking and sad. And just maybe a bit problematic. This relationship historically has been problematic, but there's a trope of like lesbian relationships ending in one of them dying in tragedy, often at the hands of the other. It's very tropey. If Chandra has to kill Nissa, I'd much rather Chandra save Nissa, and she could be one of the ones that gets saved. But I also don't know if I trust Wizards to not make that mistake, especially as I feel like they're definitely going to want to move past this relationship because it's so problematic that they want to have Chandra be new people. I do think there's something interesting in the fact that Ren is able to kind of commune in trees in a similar way to Nissa, and might actually be able to use some version of the World Tree to connect to Nissa and maybe pull her back from evil.